Marjane Satrapi, the Iranian-French author whose comic novel series Persepolis illustrated the struggles of ordinary Iranians during the turbulent years around the Islamic Revolution, died recently, aged 56. Her passing was attributed to grief. Satrapi's husband and Swedish producer Mattias Ripa had died of cancer in 2025. Satrapi had openly shared her grief on social media. Many found a heartbreaking parallel between Satrapi's death and her 2004 comic book, Chicken with Plums. The protagonist, a musician, loses his beloved instrument, robbing him of his will to live and confining him to his bed. I have not read the novels of Satrapi. The surname that traces its roots to satrap or regional chieftain reflects the station of the family in pre-revolution Iran. But I have been struck by her outrage when France banned smoking in public. The following are excerpts from her illustrated Ode to Smoking in the New York Times in 2005. I quote Satrapi, "I should be ashamed that children who might read the New York Times will be influenced by me and become smokers themselves. Of course, I can never influence any kid to become a cartoonist or to be against war. Of course, there's no need to worry about all the kids who play war games on their computers and shoot and kill the virtual enemies all day long." Now I come to the purpose of this video. Nothing can be said to be certain except death and taxes, and E.P. Unny's standout tributes to creators of comic art. On June 8th, in the Indian Express editorial page, Unny paid tribute to Satrapi. The parallel, there are differences too, between Spiegelman's Mouse and Satrapi's Persepolis has been well documented. I think the author N.S. Madhavan captured the spirit when he posted on X on June 6th. The wonderful world of graphic novels was opened to me by Art Spiegelman's Mouse and Marjane Satrapi's Persepolis. They were foundational texts, introducing me to a thrilling literary form. In a novel, we remember paragraphs. In a graphic novel, we remember panels. Against such a backdrop, how befitting and poignant Unny's tribute is, I need not underscore. I am sure you will notice how Unny has introduced the grim here and now into the frame by adding the war machines crisscrossing the skies. 2 days ago, I came across an interview of Unny about Satrapi, conducted by S. Gopalakrishnan, editor of the podcast Dilli Dali. Gopalakrishnan chooses his subjects with care, in such a way that when he uploads an interview, you are left restless unless you watch it. The interview is 35 minutes and 52 seconds long. Any attempt to condense a life to a 35-plus minute conversation is fraught with risks, but to shrink it further to 4 minutes and 18 seconds is reckless, which is what I stand guilty of. I hope Unny and Gopalakrishnan will forgive me, because the full interview's every second is worth watching. It discusses the politics and craft of Satrapi's works. All I can do to atone is to request you again to watch the interview in full on YouTube. The 4-minute, 18-second part I spoke of covers the last 2 questions of the interview. Personally, it was a moment of revelation for me, and perhaps not so for Unny's close friends. Full credit must be given to Gopalakrishnan for asking the 2 questions. The first question, translated from the original Malayalam. Gopalakrishnan asks, "Now I have 2 questions to ask. The first concerns something that surprised me greatly. Perhaps it is because of my ignorance, or because I do not know enough about Kerala society. I realized only after her, Satrapi's death, how immensely popular she was in Kerala. Looking at the tremendous popularity she enjoyed here, how do you understand it?" Now, you know why Gopalakrishnan is a great interviewer. Look at the way he has framed the question. Unny answers, quote, "That is because Kerala has good readers," unquote. Unny uses the word Vayanakar in Malayalam, a gender-neutral term. Then Unny clarifies, quote, "I would underscore Vayanakarikal, women readers. Satrapi's readers in Kerala range from girls aged 15 to 20 to women in their 80s. Several grandparents, parents, and friends gift Satrapi's books to youngsters." Unny adds, "Around 20 years ago, I had an inkling about Kerala's familiarity with Satrapi and her works. I had gone to the Central University campus on Kasaragod in North Kerala. A postgraduate girl student, a brilliant student who had not traveled beyond the two neighboring districts of Kannur and Kozhikode, spoke in detail about Satrapi. Those days, even editors in Kerala were not aware of the concept of graphic or comic novels. Satrapi's extraordinary life, her narration, and the way she told stories touch the heart immediately. They strike a chord very quickly.
Then Gopalakrishnan came to his last question. I must digress here. I have been following Unny's work since 1991, almost every day and over multiple publications. The problem with 3 decades of close pursuit is that at some point, admiration transforms itself into worship, a pitfall-ridden metamorphosis at the altar of cartooning whose lifeblood is iconoclasm fed by insolence. Perhaps that hero worship made me confuse Unny's cartooning and his Calvin with the cartoonist, ruthless, cutting, and equanimous, as it should be. So little prepared me for the deeply personal question Gopalakrishnan asked. I would not have dared ask that question, fearing that it might put Unny off. Their proximity possibly allowed Gopalakrishnan to ask Unny the question. Gopalakrishnan addresses Unny as Unny Mash. Mash literally translates as teacher or sir, but the English words do not capture the full meaning in Malayalam. The word Mash packs a mix of respect, admiration, and above all, affection. The question is in the next frame.
Gopalakrishnan, my last question is this. The family says that Satrapi died in sorrow, that grief was the cause of her death. Let us assume that cartoonist Unny Mash had known this beforehand. Since E.P. Unny admires her so deeply while she was alive, had he written her a letter then? What would its opening sentence have been? What would its contents have been? This artist was extremely grief-stricken. Unny answers, if I had known, perhaps because I have read her Chicken with Plums, I think that in her response to grief there existed both music and the absence of music. Unny adds, perhaps I would have sent Satrapi a 15-minute clip of N. Rajam playing the violin. I believe that if music had somehow touched Satrapi, she might have come back to herself. It feels as though music itself had departed. Along with life, music too seems to have gone somewhere. She possessed extraordinary music within her. Otherwise, she could never have written a book like Chicken with Plums. As I said, she left us in a terrible state. We still have her great works and stories that touch our hearts, but she departed without giving us more. I must end this video with a priceless moment from the interview. When Unny says he would have sent N. Rajam's clip to Satrapi, this is how Gopalakrishnan responds. Perhaps overwhelmed by Unny's response and moved beyond words, Gopalakrishnan brings his palms together in the universal symbol of respect and admiration. The closest to that moment I had seen earlier was Stephen Colbert asks Keanu Reeves, "What do you think happens when we die?" Stunned by Reeves's reply, Colbert utters a silent "wow" and shakes the actor's hand. Should I have uploaded the video instead of the illustration of Gopalakrishnan's response? I did not try because I want you to watch the full video on YouTube. I believe there could not have been a more fitting response than that by Gopalakrishnan, which is also the reason why I took the reckless step of making this video. Thank you.